there, and welcome back to our channel. On this channel, we talk about mental health with a special focus on how it affects us as a DID system. Today, we are going to talk about switching, and I do have notes written down, so if you see me looking down, I'm referencing my notes. I want to make sure I cover everything that I want to cover in this video. If you hear clicking or noise in the background, that's our son playing video games. So like I said, we're going to talk about switching today. Now, switching is a major component of DID, and switching is when one alter leaves the front and another alter takes over the front. Now, for some systems, switches might feel the same most of the time, but for other systems, how their switching feels may vary from time to time. There's multiple reasons that switches might feel different. One is how close the alters switching are. Is there good communication between them? How strong are the amnesic barriers? Other reasons could be because of the environment. How safe do you feel? Are you alone? Are you with trusted people who know about your DID? Or are you in a situation where you need to mask? Other things that can affect switches can be how tired you are, if you're sick, if you're stressed, or how dissociated you already are before the switch starts to begin. There are a couple of ways to describe how switches can vary from each other. One of the things that we can do is we can look at how the research covers it. Now, when the research talks about switches, they list 3 different types of switches. And the first one is a consensual switch. This is a switch in which both alters that are switching agree to the switch. There is usually some level of co-consciousness, meaning that the alters have awareness of one another's presence. This type of switch can include planned or scheduled switches. Now, a forced switch is a switch where one of the alters doesn't want to switch. This could mean that one alter abandons the front and another alter has to step in, or it can mean that the alter in front doesn't want to leave, but somebody else wants to front, so that alter kicks the fronting alter out so that they can take control. Now, a triggered switch is a switch that is unplanned and unwanted by both alters. An outside factor forces the switch. Triggers can be either positive or negative. And so these tend to happen suddenly and without any consent from any of the alters that are being forced in the switch. Now, what we have noticed when we've been researching is that these studies tend to focus on how, what causes the switches, but not necessarily on how those switches feel. So what we did was we came up with a list of how we would describe the switches we would experience and describe it in how it feels when we switch. These switches in some cases include co-consciousness or co-fronting. With co-consciousness, you have an alter in front and one or more alters are in the headspace aware of what the fronting alter is doing. Co-fronting is when one or more alter is in the front. Sometimes this can look like different alters controlling different body parts. For example, we might have one alter controlling the body and another alter controlling what we say. Other times it may be that they have control of specific body parts, like in this scene here.
You return the scarab.
All right. Yeah, so you mean,
You will give him nothing.
here.
I strongly encourage you to return that.
I'm not, come on. It's like, my fingers froze. I don't know, it's the high altitude or something. I take it. That's so strange. Sorry about that.
I will not ask again.
I didn't do that on purpose. Don't know what's happening.
Now, that's an exaggerated version of what would happen in a co-fronting situation, but it can look similar to that. Now, most of the time, our co-fronting looks like multiple alters, usually 2 in our case, but alters fluidly switching back and forth, taking turns controlling the body without any dissociation between them. Some of our switches can also involve or lead to rapid switching. Rapid switching is when you switch multiple times within a short period of time.
Hey, it's Cassie, and we are rapid switching right now. I am trying to hang on long enough to do this intro. but we are rapid switching, and so she managed to at least start the camera, but basically we figured we would show what rapid switching can look like for us. And then maybe it'll be that like Murphy's Law thing where like now that we have the camera on us that we won't switch anymore. It's Stefan. I think what triggered this one was some work stress. And it's tough when we're rapid. I don't know who I am right now.
For us, rapid switching usually happens over a matter of minutes, but for other systems, it may be over a matter of hours. So let's move on to the types of switches we have come up with to describe what we feel and what we experience. The first is a stretched out switch. These are switches that take longer and come with a lot of dissociation. Sometimes these switches can take hours, but we've also heard of systems for whom these switches can take days. We compare it to like when you have a really good grilled cheese sandwich and you cut it in half and you spread the halves apart and the cheese stretches in between. The next is an instant switch. This is when alters switch instantly with no obstacles. It's like we blink and a new alter is in front. For us, these are usually triggered switches, whether for positive or negative triggers. Now, a stuck switch is when a switch starts but doesn't fully get completed. It's like one alter is leaving while the other alter is entering and they get stuck in the doorway. This can lead to dissociation, co-fronting, or rapid switching. And sometimes a third alter will take control of the front because the other two are still stuck. Mass switches happen when it's important that the people we are around don't notice us switch. We purposefully don't show any physical signs of switching, although if you know us really well, you might pick up on some subtle clues. The alter that fronts continues to act the same way that the previous alter was acting, usually in our default system mask. So no differences are noticed. This can happen if it's unsafe for us to show a switch, or sometimes we just don't want to have to explain that a new alter is fronting. Covert switches. These are switches that happen and we don't even realize that we've switched. We might think we're one alter when we're really another, or we might not give any thought to who we are at all. We'll just be going about our business and something will happen to clue us in that we are not the same alter that we were an hour ago. Switches are not always obvious even to the alters that are switching. And a switch between alters can sometimes just feel more like a switch in mood. Even for our system that has spent a lot of time uncovering the system and working on communication, we still have a lot of times where we don't necessarily realize we're switching. And we just had a switch like that where I didn't realize that we had switched until the first thing that we noticed was, oh, I'm suddenly a lot grumpier than I was like 2 seconds ago. And like we're PMSing right now, so you could chalk it up to PMS. And so we didn't clock it right away, right? And yes, I'm known as the grumpy alter or whatever. But so the bad mood was the first thing we noticed. And then the next thing we noticed is Shell had planned to make a video. And I was thinking about how, like, I don't want to make that video. That video sounds stupid. There's no point to making it. And then that was the second thing. And then that's when I clocked it. And I was like, why am I suddenly so adverse to a video that I was really excited about making? And then it dawned on me, I was like, oh, I'm not Shell, I'm Ariana. In our system, most of our switches tend to be covert switches. Smooth switches. These switches happen without dissociation and aren't forced. It feels like one alter is fading into another. And it just happens smoothly. And there has to be some level of co-consciousness between the two alters that are switching for us to have smooth switches. And we've also realized that as our communication gets better, then the smoother our switches seem to be. Now, we have something that we call false switches, and this is when we experience the signs and symptoms of a switch, but there is no actual switch between alters. In our system, we've noticed that only the host seems to experience these. Our newest working theory is that it may be our host noticing somebody entering or leaving co-consciousness. Now, the next is not necessarily a type of switch, but a state that you are in after the switch. And this is when you are blended or blurry. When we're not sure who is fronting. This can feel like completely not knowing who we are or feeling like we're a combination of alters. This usually comes with a lot of dissociation. This is not an exhaustive list of what switches can feel like. The way we experience switches may not be the way that your system experiences them. And it's really important that you know that you can't tell if a system is faking based on what their switches look like. And if you are a system and your switches don't look like what you see on social media, that does not make you any less valid. Every system is different. What switches that we covered does your system experience? Or are there switches that you experience that we didn't cover? We would love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. And until next time, take care and stay well.